That's where we're going to begin on the show tonight. We got an NFC West battle in the Bay. It's the Seahawks at the 49ers. The 49ers are favored by 9.5 points. It's a 4:30 kickoff on Fox. The over-under for this game is 42.5 points. And these two teams faced off against each other earlier in the season. They played in week 2 in the Bay. That was the game where Tre Larkins had his season-ending injury. The 49ers, they beat the Seahawks 27-7. Geno Smith struggled in the first matchup. He went 24 of 30. He threw for 197 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Jimmy Garoppolo came in and replaced Tre Larkins. Garoppolo went 13 of 21. He threw for 154 passing yards, 1 touchdown in that game. And then they faced off against each other again in week 15. This was a Thursday night game in Seattle. The 49ers, they beat the Seahawks 21-13. In that game, Brock Purdy got the start for the 49ers. He went 17 of 26, 217 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. George Kittle had 4 receptions, 93 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith, he went 31 of 44. He threw for 238 passing yards, 1 touchdown. So those were the two matchups by the two teams. These are two teams who are very familiar with one another. They got a lot of history. I'm talking about Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Pete Carroll, Kyle Shanahan, Michael Crabtree, Richard Sherman. So much history between the Seahawks and the 49ers, two teams that do not like each other. So this is going to be a big-time matchup. The 49ers are big favorites in this game, but the Seahawks are familiar with the 49ers. They know what it takes to beat the 49ers. And that's where I want to start off with. I want to start off with the Seattle Seahawks and how they have played this season. The Seahawks, they were able to sneak into the postseason with a 9-8 record. They beat the Rams in week 18. They needed some help from the Detroit Lions. The Lions beat the Packers at Lambeau Field, and the Seahawks took advantage of it, and they punched their ticket to the playoffs. This year, the reason why the Seahawks are in the playoffs is because Geno Smith has revitalized his career. Geno Smith has had a great season this year, and I believe that he should win the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. He has done a great job for the Seattle Seahawks this year. 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 4,282 passing yards. He's completed 70% of his passes this year, which is the best in the NFL. That's the best in the NFL. And I believe that Geno Smith is going to have to make some plays for this Seahawks team to have a chance at winning this football game. Because I like the running back that the Seahawks have in the backfield. It's rookie running back Kenneth Walker. And Kenneth Walker, he had over 1,000 yards rushing this year, 9 touchdowns. I like his playmaking ability. But this defensive football team in the 49ers, they are led by defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, and they are stout against the run. You cannot run the ball against this 49ers defense. The 49ers defensively, they only give up 78 rushing yards per game. That's ranked second in the NFL. So I believe in order for the Seahawks to have a chance at pulling off the upset in San Francisco, they're going to need some production out of Geno Smith in the passing game. Geno Smith is going to have to play his best game of the season for the Seahawks to have a chance. He's going to have to play his best game because I don't believe that the Seahawks are going to be able to run the football. I mean, that 49ers defensive front that has Nick Bosa, Arik Armstead, they got linebackers like Fred Warner and Greenlaw. It's hard to run against that 49ers defense. So I believe the key is going to be that Seahawks passing attack featuring DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And this year, for whatever reason, DK Metcalf, he's been quiet to me. He's had a quiet season, even though he does have over 1,000 yards receiving this year. 90 receptions, 6 total touchdowns this year. The best game of the season from DK Metcalf came against the Detroit Lions in that shootout in Detroit. When it was Seattle versus Detroit, Metcalf had the best game of the season that day. But besides that, Metcalf, he hasn't had a great game so far this year. In order for the Seahawks to have a chance to upset the 49ers, DK Metcalf has to play his best football of the season. You got to play his best football of the season for them to have a chance. An X factor for the Seahawks offensively is also going to be their tight end, Noah Fant. Noah Fant is going to have to produce in the passing game and win his matchup against those 49ers linebackers. Like Fred Warner, we know how great Fred Warner is at being able to stuff the run. But I believe if there's any weakness in Fred Warner's game, it's in coverage on passing downs. So Noah Fant is going to have to win his matchup against Fred Warner for the Seahawks to have an opportunity to have a chance. And I think offensively, that's going to be the key for the Seahawks. It's going to be on Geno Smith. Kenneth Walker will not be able to run the football against that elite 49ers defense. Now, we know that the Seahawks, they are led by Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he's been doing it for a very, very long time at the NFL level. And remember, Pete Carroll had a lot of success even at the collegiate level with USC. So far, since he's been a head coach in the NFL, Pete Carroll, he's 161 and 112-1 in the regular season. So he's won 59% of his games. He's 11-10 in the postseason, though. So ever since Legion of Boom, featuring Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor, Pete Carroll has struggled in the postseason. He struggled in the postseason. 11-10 postseason record. It's okay. 52% of his games. We know he won a Super Bowl. He should have 2 Super Bowls on his resume had they gave the football to beast mode Marshawn Lynch in that Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. But Pete Carroll is more than capable at being able to will his Seattle Seahawks to an upset win in Seattle. Now, when you switch gears, on the other side, the 49ers, they are led by rookie quarterback Brock Purdy. And so far this season, Brock Purdy has been impressive. 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,374 passing yards. He's completed 67% of his passes. So once again, Kyle Shanahan is doing major, major work without an elite quarterback. It seems like whoever Kyle Shanahan inserts into the starting quarterback position for the 49ers, they thrive. We all know that Jimmy Garoppolo has never been confused with the elite quarterback. You can never confuse Jimmy G to be an elite quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan was able to get Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl. Remember, Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC Championship game against the Packers, the man threw 8 passes. 8 passes, and the 49ers blew out the Packers in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. So Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he's a tremendous play caller. The only problem we got with Kyle Shanahan is him finishing games. Remember back in the 2016 Super Bowl, that year where the Falcons got to the Super Bowl, Matt Ryan won the NFL MVP that season. They were going up against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They were up 28-3 in that Super Bowl. They couldn't finish that deal, and Kyle Shanahan deserves some of that blame. And then in the Super Bowl a few years ago against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, going into the fourth quarter of that game, the 49ers. They had a 20-10 lead over the Chiefs, and they couldn't finish that deal against the Chiefs that day. So the only question we got about Kyle Shanahan is if he can finish in the Super Bowl. But we ain't got no questions about Kyle Shanahan in the earlier rounds of the playoffs. Now, offensively, we know that the 49ers, they made a big trade mid-season, and I thought it was the trade of the year. Bringing in Christian McCaffrey was a tremendous pickup by John Lynch, the general manager for the 49ers, and Kyle Shanahan, because I believe that McCaffrey, he fits right into the 49ers scheme perfectly. For the season, McCaffrey has 159 carries, 746 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Only questions we had about McCaffrey was whether or not he could stay healthy throughout the course of a playoff run for the 49ers. If he can, I believe the 49ers are the favorites, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL overall. They have tremendous weapons as well at the receiver position. They got Deebo Samuel. They got Brandon Ayuk. And they also got George Kittle. I think George Kittle is a top 3 tight end in the NFL. He's the best run-blocking tight end that we have currently in the NFL. I love Travis Kelce. I love Darren Waller. But neither of those 2 tight ends block the way that George Kittle blocks in this 49ers offense. So this is going to be a great matchup. I think this game is going to be much closer than most people are anticipating. I think that the Seahawks, Geno Smith is going to have the best game of his career. He's going to have the best game of his career for the Seahawks to pull off the upset. And they're going to have to make some plays in the passing game. This year, passes of 20 yards or more downfield, this is Geno Smith. In 2 games versus the 49ers, he only has 27 passing yards of yards down the field, no passing touchdowns. Against the other teams that they played this year, he has 14 passing touchdowns of 20. He has 819 total passing yards of 20 yards or more downfield, and he's went 29 of 62. So for whatever reason against the 49ers, the passing offense by the Seahawks is not as good. But that 49ers defense is elite. Nick Bosa, we know he's going to have an impact on this game. One of the best pass rushers that we have in the NFL. He has 5 sacks in 4 games against the Seahawks. And Nick Bosa has the most quarterback hits this season with 48. 48 total quarterback hits this year for Nick Bosa. And defensively, the 49ers, they allowed the fewest points per game. They only give up 16 points per game and only 301 yards per game. Those both are ranked first in the NFL. So I think this is going to be a much, much better game than people are anticipating. It's an NFC West battle. So many playoff matchups and battles between both of these teams. But with all that being said, I believe that the 49ers are going to beat the Seahawks Saturday afternoon in San Francisco. I'm going 49ers 24, Seahawks 17. So I don't have the 49ers covering on that 9.5 spread, but I do have the Seahawks keeping this game competitive. But I think the 49ers are going to be too much for the Seattle Seahawks. 49ers 24, Seahawks 17. Coming at the break, I'm going to discuss an AFC East battle between the Dolphins and the Bills. I'll be right back.